Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Boring Enterprise Nerds uh, Nerd Talk, Dork Talk, Tech Talk, whatever you want to call it. We just find people that we think are interesting, and we have them show and share, and then we pepper them with interesting questions along the way. With us today, of course, besides myself, Paul Moderman, is the effervescent Yelena Perfilieva. Say hi, Yelena.
Hey.
And one of my favorite, I think, maybe fence sitters out there in the universe is Holger Bruchelt, who is a Microsoft employee, but carries this amazing backpack full of SAP knowledge into the Microsoft world and does a great job. He's all over the media. He's all over the SAP and Azure podcast, other socials, showing us what's possible in like the overlap of those things. Holger, it is great to see your face on a video. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
Thank you so much, Yelena, Paul, for having me. It's a really great pleasure. I mean, I read the newsletter all the time. I have to admit, I don't watch all the newsletter read-throughs, but
God
That's
damn it!
Ah,
Damn
come
it.
on!
How dare you, sir?
Yelena, I loved your the BTP run through. I watched that
Oh,
where you
nice.
clicked and
Yes.
experienced how how
Yeah.
BTP is evolving, I would say. So thank you so much for having me.
So, in the spirit of showing and telling, Holger, you work in the Microsoft and SAP space, according to making those two talk. You guys have really done a really cool thing in the, I would say, Power Platform to SAP, like joining the plugs together universe. Could you show us some of the latest stuff that you guys have been working on in that space? I think a lot of the folks who watch and listen work in environments where, Power Platform and SAP are both major players in enterprise applications.
Yeah, no, absolutely happy to do so. Uh, one of the most important things that we released very recently is the SAP OData connector. And the SAP OData connector basically allows you finally to connect your Power Platform apps, be it a Power App or a Power Automate flow, via OData to an SAP system. And we all know, I mean, there are still tons of customers out there that are using plain RFCs, BAPIs, and we have a connector for that. There's no question about this. And it's also a very good connector. And again, we have lots of customers that are using it. But if you have some forward looking, if you see where SAP is going, and also more and more in customer discussions, customers are asking, look, we have all these SAP Fiori apps. They're all using OData services. Maybe we have an API management already that really protects our SAP system from overloading calls that come from a fantastic usage of Fiori apps or whatever. So how can we do this in the context of the Power Platform? And that's where some time ago, I mean, in the past, it was only possible if you created your very own custom connector, if you then worked with this and somehow got it working. And now we have an out-of-the-box OData connector. And the OData connector is actually really cool because it takes away a lot of complexity that is still there with an SAP system. I mean, if you just read some information, then that's always very easy. But when you want to update and create information, you have to have this additional token handlings, these XCSRF tokens. And if you put yourself in the shoe of a Power Platform user, that's even more complicated to explain to them. So all of these things are abstracted, are hidden from the end user there. Yeah. So that's a really cool functionality of the SAP OData connector.
And I think, when I think about just the experience of Joe or Jane, enterprise person who's you know what, I'm not like a Google level software engineer, but I can make my stuff go. That prior world of that layer of I have to go decorate the Christmas tree of making the OData talk to Power, that was like a whole separate added task on every app that you were doing mashups for, right? It's so seeing what you're about to show us and see like is such a huge power boost to like the process of that app dev, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and I watched Holger your video when it was still in preview. Right now I think it's already generally available, but you did a preview, and when I was watching it, like this is finally the person who did all that, who knows the pain of doing all those ridiculous
Mhm.
steps that you have to do every single freaking time. So finally, someone just took that all and essentially just made it easier and just took it away. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even use like Power Platform, but god damn it, like I want something like this for everything. Like why can't like gateway client within SAP work just like that? That is just mind-boggling to me. Because, but please, yeah, please, yeah, take us take us away, Holger.
I mean, to be honest, not everything is perfect
Right.
on this side here, but I do agree. I really think that the this OData connector really helped a lot to
Mm,
simplify the way how users
yeah.
can connect. So let me actually maybe share my screen and get started with this. So just to oops, just to take a look here. We are in Power Automate. The Power Automate basically are the flows that allow you to connect. There's a trigger typically, and then there's some backend service that you can call. And obviously you can do a lot of things in between. And this backends can be Microsoft 365 services. This can be an SAP system. And so typically what you would start with, you just create here a flow, you give it a name, boring enterprise. We just use it here a manual trigger, for example. And now I'm in this is canvas that allows me to create a flow. So I would just here click on add actions. Now we have a bunch of different actions here. I think we have over 1,400 connectors in the meantime. So chances are your backend system is there as well. And the cool thing, if I search for SAP now, we will see the ERP connector. So that's the connector that allows us to connect to BAPIs and RFCs.
Mm-hmm.
And there we have to use a so-called on-premises data gateway, similar like the SAP Cloud Connector. It acts as a reverse proxy there, or to go through the firewall in the end. But it is also required to do the protocol translation, because obviously here we are under web-based protocols, and then we need to transform it to the DIAC protocol to connect to the SAP system via RFCs. With OData services, we don't need to do this. So with the OData service, I can just here, for example, select the read operation. I should have shown you. So out of the box, we support like the typical CRUD operations from OData. So we have a read, we have a query operation, we have a create, an update. So all of them are available. And now the first thing that you would need to do, I mean, you all know the ES5 system. So in my first demo, I'm also connecting to ES5. Let me just show you how this would look like. So you give it a connection name, and then you select the authentication type. And maybe we can later on also talk about our single sign-on implementation that we have. But then here you would paste in the URL of the OData service, username and password if you have basic authentication. Then potentially, if you want to use still a gateway. So we have customers that want to use this on-premises data gateway, so Microsoft products, but we also have customers that are using the SAP Cloud Connector, that are connecting via business technology platform. Again, maybe via SAP API management. That actually, so we also do support API keys. So in a lot of customers, you have an API key that you need to send to the API management solution to also maybe differentiate later on for monitoring on telemetry information, that you can easily differentiate between these calls came from this app, these call or from this user group, these calls came from another user group. So we're fairly flexible, I would say, what we can do here. And then
and Holger, sorry, that gateway there, it was not the SAP gateway, right? Just to clarify.
No.
Right.
Very good point. No, it's not the SAP gateway. I mean, maybe SAP gateway is used to expose the OData service, But here we are talking about the proxy. This gateway, so it's on the Microsoft side, it's called on-premises data gateway, OPDG.
Oh, okay.
And this is the very same thing as the SAP Cloud Connector, I would say. So then once I have configured this, and that's actually also really cool, it provides me with all the entity types that are available from the OData service. So for example, I can just select here this product set. I have here additional functionality. So maybe we only want to have here the first 5 results from the SAP system. And then I think we are already good to go. So we can just save it. We have the read operation. Okay, so it detects that for the read, unlike the query operation, for the read, I need to specify one specific service or one specific entity. So it wants to have the product ID. So I've been working with ES5 quite a lot. So there's a product HD1000.
I was going to say, he knows the ID off the top of his head.
This is badass.
Who works with ES5 knows HD1000. And then
this guy OData's, yeah.
Which then actually also just now that I know the top 5 then doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense, but yeah.
We're only asking for one specific service, but then here I can easily test it, and then hopefully we'll get some information back in a second. So this is now for basic authentication, and we are connecting to the SAP system. We have this manual trigger, so someone needs to trigger it. But this, okay, and there's a bad request. You can see this is a live. Yeah, here. Okay, so this is exactly. Let me just remove these things here. I think that's clear all. Save it again and test it again. So, but I mean, this is a very, very simple Power Automate flow. A manual trigger. This could be an incoming email. This could be a Teams chat. This could be an HTTP request or something like that. And then in our case, obviously, we just read the information and we don't do anything with this. But we would, hopefully we get now the information back for this specific product. Yeah, here you go. So you can see here we got supplier, whatever. Here's our HD1000. We have the notebook 15. So we get the information for this specific product back. And now I could send an email. I could update this information. I could send an adaptive card in Teams or something like that. I'm really open what I can do. And this flow could be triggered by a Power App. So very much like a Fiori application, but it's a small app that runs also on your mobile device or somewhere, also on your desktop. And this could trigger this potential flow. One thing that is actually very much used right now, Copilot. At Microsoft, we always talk about Copilot right now. So we have a product called Copilot Studio, which allows you to build low-code Copilots. And Copilot Studio can also connect to these Power Automate flows, which is super powerful because now all of a sudden we have access from Copilots to these 1,500 connectors in the background, including SAP. And that's actually something that what I really, really like. And it's amazing what's possible there, that you can then really just say, well, show me products from my SAP system. And we use the OData connector to connect to the SAP system, retrieve the list of products, and return this information back to the Copilot. So
this is like this. I can't help like. What am I trying to say? I don't like to. I'm not gonna bag on SAP at all for like the low code, no code environment there. I just think that Power Platform is a better low code, no code environment between Power Automate, Power Apps, and all the other Power Platform things. But what's going on here is like, the power of having like an SAP block that is available to a flow that is more than SAP blocks on either side of that block is so like no SAP system of any appreciable size lives in isolation, right? Basically all of the apps that you do of any kind of interestingness are doing more than just like an SAP transaction of some kind, right?
Yeah.
This having this is, I mean, you even hit a stumbling block, right, Holger? But it was like 5 minutes that you had this in there. That's bananas, I think, when you compare when you don't have a tool like this to get the stuff plugged in. That's bananas, you know?
I mean,
and
honestly, for me, the huge advantage is if I not only do something with SAP. I would
Yeah.
argue if I'm in SAP, if I'm maybe even already on S/4HANA, they have a really cool extensibility concept already,
Yeah.
where you can easily enhance, and also with SAP Build, SAP Build Process Automation. They, I actually think that they're doing something really great there. But I would say as soon as you leave the pure SAP system,
Yes.
like if you want to integrate in Teams, if you want to react for an incoming email, or I know but excuse me, I am from Microsoft, so I have to mention also the scenarios with Copilot. This is absolutely mind-blowing. I'm not saying this
Yes.
is perfect, but the things that I've seen, it's just absolutely amazing. And for me, this new interaction will open up a lot of new things. And with these kinds of integrations, we have a fantastic integration into the SAP world.
Yeah.
And then when you crunch numbers in Excel and you need to have a quick answer, then you have your Copilot to connect to the SAP system. Or when you get an email from your supplier, and you can trigger off a Power Automate flow that connects to the SAP system and get something. So for me, the Power Platform, the huge strength of the Power Platform is when SAP is one piece of a story. If I'm only doing SAP, you can still do this with Power Platform, obviously, but maybe then there are also other tools that for the SAP expert, that maybe if I'm a pure SAP guy, then maybe I am already working on the business technology platform. I already have access to the SAP Build solution. Then that's the more logical choice. But if I'm not only doing SAP, then I think the Power Platform is a really, really great way to connect.
I'm just thinking about it from the just regular business user perspective, because it's not a secret that everyone loves Excel. It's a top probably question out there. How do I get this stuff from SAP? How do I get it into my Excel spreadsheet? And mostly people just go into, even in Fiori apps, the first question is, can I get this into Excel? So this, I think, opens many more doors for the users like that. They're like, I don't care about your Copilot. Like, forget about Copilot. Like, if I can get this into Excel, that's just super powerful to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, as you were saying here, there's so many. Excel is a huge thing, obviously, but for me also Teams or Outlook. If I can have a better integration then into SAP, that can already be a huge benefit for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So Holger, can we talk about the SSO piece too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you saw I had here basic authentication, and obviously the number one question also during our private preview, the number one question from customers was always, look, this is great, but in order to do this really in a productive way, I need to have single sign-on.
Yeah.
That's actually where I'm super happy to have some amazing colleagues. And one of the colleagues, Martin Pankratz,
Oh yeah.
he is writing blogs like crazy, and very good quality blogs. He also has a lot of content on GitHub where he publishes everything. We have another Martin in our team, Martin Repple, who is amazing when it comes to security. The cool thing with him is also he was a long-term SAP employee working on security. Now he's with Microsoft working with security. And so we have a really, really good team that know both of worlds, basically. And Martin just published blog posts for an OAuth authentication flow, basically. So basically, when you start from not only Power Platform, but from any Microsoft products where you have an Entra ID authentication, or I mean, Entra ID is the new Azure Active Directory. We just renamed it, well, a few, I think it's almost years now ago, but now it's called Entra ID. So whenever you have an application that has as a first step the authentication with Entra ID. That's where we have now multiple ways to do single sign-on. Here we see this with Azure API management, because what we also learned in our private preview, everyone says, yeah, I'm using OAuth. Okay, then you go into this discussion with the customer, and then each and every implementation is a little different.
Yeah.
So at first we said, look, can we have this OAuth integration directly embedded in Power Automate or in the Power Platform? And it turned out we don't have enough flexibility there. So that's why we said, look, when we talk about OData services, most of the customers have an API management in between anyways. So why not offload the complexity of this, what we call the token dance, and I'll talk about this in a second.
Oh, I've danced that dance.
We've danced, yeah.
I've been at that dance, Holger.
There you go. And we'll go through this in a second. But let's do this in the API management solution. And yes, we have it here for Azure API management, but Martin released the very same thing also for SAP API management. Actually, for SAP API management, the required policy is now also available in the SAP API Business Accelerator Hub. I think that's the official term. So customers can easily go there and use it, put it into their SAP API management. Then they have the policy, and we'll take a look at this in a second. They need to add obviously some specific information from their Entra ID client and from their business technology platform, and then they're good to go. Because what we're doing here is, so we authenticate first against Entra ID, then we get an access token that allows us to request an assertion for the backend system, for the SAP backend system. And then once we have this one, then we can do the final call to the actual OData service. So it's a little back and forth basically, but in the end, we have a real single sign-on flow from the front end to the SAP backend system. And this works against your on-premises backend system. This works against BTP if you have. We just, or Martin also released the same thing for SuccessFactors. So we now have a good template that you can use to do here really the full authentication flow. Actually, so let me quickly show here. So this is, for example, how the policy looks like for what this is now for, this is for SuccessFactors even. So basically you need some input parameters, but then all the magic happens here behind the scenes basically, so that in the end, let me switch here to, this is Azure API management, but again, it's very, very similar if I do this with SAP API management. Mm-hmm. I have here configured, again, my GW base example OData service. And then here in the settings, we can see that this is the proxied URL basically. So, okay, it's loading.
And another feature is that it's lightning fast.
Of course. Okay, let's take a look at the policy. That's the real interesting thing. So here basically as an inbound policy, so whenever a call comes in, we run through this flow here. So you can see there's a call to the login authentication service. Then down here there's the let me check. There's the call to the SAP token endpoint, and then finally we do the call to, no, this is the OAuth token. Then in the end we do finally the call to the SAP backend system. Here we even do the CSF token handling. So this is a fairly complex policy, but the beautiful thing is everything is prepared for you, so that in the end, let me just run you through.
Actually, pause right there. Can you flip back real quick, Holger?
Yep.
Shout out. So scroll. I think you were going there anyway, but shout out to Martin at the top. He linked the Postman setup. Like all of us nerds out there, like beautiful. Thank you so much for a Postman collection that does the thing. That's I like the number of times I'm in there juggling Postman to try some crazy auth flow of whatever I'm doing. Like, and I'd say 1 out of every 5 times, some saint of a community person has prepared like a Postman collection. Huge shout out to Martin. I think Martin sent this. Yeah, oh, it's in the GitHub ID right there. Yeah. Martin, across the digital ocean, I'm just calling to you, Martin. Thank you. Always do this. If you have a tip bucket, I will add to your tip bucket. This is beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Soapbox over.
No. I couldn't agree more. The work that Martin is doing there is absolutely amazing, and it's so great. I mean, he's really directly in my team, so we're working next to each other. It's fantastic to work with him. And again, also he's publishing everything on his GitHub repo, and it's really amazing. He's very open. He's very much sharing all this information, so it's a lot of cool fun. And he helped me also to make sure that I can demo this to you now.
Nice.
Good. So let me switch over here to Bruno. So like a postman. The first thing is, keep in mind we are now doing this very first call. Oops, sorry. This very first call. We're coming from the client. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to authenticate against Entra ID, which means I call here this specific URL. And I mean, this would all run in the background. For now, what we'll do is I will just open this here in the browser, and we get, we even get potentially a two-factor authentication. So whatever you have configured. And the cool thing is we get now the access token.
Yep.
Again, since we're doing this with Postman and not with Power Platform or with another app, this is something that we need to do manually. But now here, I have the access token that allows me to connect to Azure Active Directory, to Entra ID. So what I'll do is I will just paste here this new token. Now I can call Azure Active Directory or Entra ID to actually retrieve me and on behalf, or to trigger the on behalf of flow to get a SAML assertion that I can then next use to call the SAP system, because SAP obviously doesn't know us right now.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll just send this flow, and now we get another access token, or this access token now allows me to connect to the SAP system, to the SAP backend system. So that's what I'll do here. Here we call the OAuth token service from the SAP system. With obviously here with our assertion that we just got from the previous call. So I'll send this, and now we finally get our access token that allows us to connect to the SAP system, to actually call the OData service. So all of these steps, these calls are covered or done in the API management policy, which means when I call this via API management, the cool thing is I just need to, let me see, let me take this one here again. I just need to use the initial access token. I give this initial access token to API management. API management does in the background all these two steps. So triggering the on behalf of flow, retrieving the SAML assertion, using the SAML assertion to get the access token. And then at some point in time,
now the dance of the dragons, right?
Oh, come on. Oh, here we go. Okay.
There we go. Yeah.
Let me just do this again, because it typically doesn't take so long. It should be much faster, actually. Yeah. So
yeah, I think some piece of the infra had to wake up there. Yeah.
Yes. But now it's awake. But and now I called this service really and what did we call here? The business partners. We really called the business partners. Single sign-on is always a little boring because there's not much to see. But let's say if we go to our SAP system, let me quickly log in. Maybe we do the following.
And I want to say to anybody listening who's not a developer, who hears your developers complain when SSO becomes part of the issue of things, this is why it's so funky, right? Yeah. This is why it's amazing, but like I would say peril, there are lots of peril lurks within there.
It's amazing to use. It's pain in the butt to deal with.
Yeah.
Yes. But if it works, then it's great.
But if it's work, it's magic.
It's it's like I wrote about iDocs in my book. It's like when it works, it's excellent. If it just works out of the box, perfect, awesome. If it doesn't, might as well just go home.
Exactly. So this is just a proof. Again, if single sign-on works, then it's hard to explain. Yeah, look, I didn't fake this. This was not basic authentication. But if you look at the security trace on the SAP system, so I mean there are different time zones or different time zones. So that's why it's 3 p.m. here and not 5 p.m. But you can see this is really an OAuth call that was triggered. We are calling the sample basic service. So this is really a single sign-on call that we did from here from Bruno, but potentially from any application that uses Entra ID as an entry point, and then connects or does this token dance, fetch the right SAML assertion, get the access token, call the actual OData service. And that's what we're doing here. So that's
beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's a lot of screens, a lot of text to us nerds who look at it, but it's like you said, when it's working for the business user or the end user, it's complete magic. It's complete magic. And like I think I would like if I could have people watch like a 15-minute slice of anything that would explain the trials and tribulations, I would have them watch this 15 minutes right here that we just did on this to say, see, this is why my sprint takes so long to complete the stories I have on the thing, right? This is why.
But let me actually highlight. I mean, this was just a very, very short summary, basically. If you look at the blog post from Martin and also from the other Martin, we just had another session here on our SAP on Azure podcast, but Martin also, this is also a really, really cool thing that Martin did some time ago, where they really start from the SAP backend system, do all, like they really start with a cloud appliance library image that is blank base. Everyone can use this. And then they start, what are the things that we need to do? What do we need to configure on the SAP system? What do we need to configure on Entra ID? Because you might have seen here in the policy, here I need to register some applications. Why do I need to do this? What applications do I need to register? What do I need to do on the SAP side, on BTP either, or on the backend, or on SuccessFactors side? So he really went through this. There are also some hiccups, but he also walks through these hiccups, which is, I think, always fantastic. That you not only see this happy flow, but you see, oh, there's an error message. So what does it mean? How can we figure out what kind of error message it is? So there's really a lot of additional information. What I showed you was just the working end result, but there's tons of more information that you can take a look at and set this up.
This is a treasure trove right here. It's an absolute treasure. Well, Holger, okay. So first of all, thank you for doing the show and tell here. If you've got some time, there are some other topics that maybe we don't have to do screen share for, but we'd love to get your thoughts and feedback and questions and whatever else on in the universe today, right? So and as I was watching you go through this, one of the first things I was thinking to myself was, okay, like let's just imagine I work at, a big company of some kind, and I've been kind of parked inside the SAP team for a while there, right? And I hear that my company is going to start using, more and more Azure, more and more Power Platform, that kind of stuff. Like as somebody who's been very sort of narrowly SAP for a while, like what's the first entree I should eat in learning what I do to sort of set my eyes on the Microsoft, Azure Power Platform, et cetera, side of the fence? Like what's going to lift me out of ignorance the fastest, right?
Ooh. The fastest. I honestly think the fastest is the Power Platform. It is low code. It's just clicking. It's I think that would probably be my recommendation to get started. And we actually, and that's actually a good point. What you mentioned, that we all live in bubbles, and the SAP folks, they live in an SAP bubble. The Microsoft folks live in a Microsoft bubble. And I think one huge task is also for us, for folks that try to live in both worlds, that we bring these other things, other teams together. Also within a company, within one company, there's an SAP team and there's a Microsoft team, and they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would be so much easier if they would talk to each other. I think we have seen some amazing examples where we taught the SAP team how to get started with a Power Automate flow, very much like what I showed you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I mean, truthfully, the SAP folks, they know the business processes.
Yeah.
They know where are the issues. The Microsoft folks, they, in a lot of cases, don't know the business processes. Why would they? They have other issues.
Yeah.
We can empower the SAP folks to work with the Power Platform. Then they can build these scenarios. And it can be a simple, let's build an app that whenever I need to approve a sales order, there's something popping up in Teams, and then I just click on OK, approve, and then it's approved or something like that. For me, I just, since we just had SAP TechEd, I was lucky to have 2 sessions at TechEd. And in one session, I talked about Copilot Studio and SAP. And what was really funny is all of a sudden there were so many questions coming in. Oh, can I use this against an ECC system? Can I use this against an on-premise system? Can I use this against... It was absolutely interesting. And the cool thing, I could always say yes. That was always nice. It was a good answer.
That you just lit up something for me, because I've been doing a lot of generative AI projects here, there, everywhere on like various things, whether it's SAP or non-SAP stuff. And like kind of similar to what you mentioned in this Copilot Studio session is that I've seen, even more than in the past, I have seen that until my audience, whoever it is, whether it's a fellow nerd or like a business process user or like somebody who's even further out in the business, until they physically see with their eyes what's going on, they like everything is a jumble in their head. But then once they see the thing doing whatever it is it's doing, all of a sudden 800 other things that have already been in the back of their heads, they come tumbling out, right? And it's because like I just think that there's so much value. Like Holger, I think here's a weird thing. You might be like, whoa, dude, this is crazy. But like I think if you stopped doing everything else you're doing and you only produced like 10-minute videos all day, every day, and that was all that you did, was just show examples of stuff, that would have an enormous impact in terms of that, like the things tumbling out of your mouth after you see the example, right? The example is the key to so what about when I have a picture of a cat and I need to attach that to my purchase order, right? Like that question only takes shape when you see the possibility made real in front of you, right? Yeah.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And now that you say that, that's exactly the point. Once you give the tools to the people that really know the issues, that know the challenges within their company, and they have now the tools to create them. And don't get me wrong, Power Platform is not the perfect tool. There are also some hiccups here and there. But I still think you can do a lot of things with this. And if you give this in the hands of an SAP user who knows the OData services, who knows the business processes in the backend system, if you have no clue about SAP, using Power Platform with SAP is very, very complicated. Like if we empower the SAP folks, and then they come with one example, and then they have, as you said, 800 other ideas, what they can also do with this.
Yelena, I think I jumped on top of you, Yelena.
No, it's okay. I appreciate, Holger, that you mentioned people asking about ECC, because there is still, I mean, it's a reality. Many customers still are running ECC system for one reason or another. And obviously, I don't want to frame it like, oh no, you just keep running ECC, never need to migrate. But at the same time, you also don't need to despair and think in a way like, oh, I have ECC, so I cannot really do anything modern or innovate with it. And
Yeah.
we see it a lot with ABAP developers who feel like they're stuck at work because they're running ECC. However, Gateway has been available
Oh, yes.
since forever, so for many, many years. So unless you are on EHP 0, maybe with
Yeah.
ECC, I think you can actually go ahead and start using it right now in your system. I started with OData development in ECC system, even though S4HANA was available. And actually, funny thing, I find that if you start that way, then it's much easier to do it on S4HANA, because now you even appreciate more all the simplicity that using CDS views and wrap model brings, comparing to code-based, traditional gateway
Yeah.
development.
Absolutely. Actually, I was in the SAP Gateway team. So I was at
Oh.
SAP before I joined Microsoft, and
Nice.
I was in the team that developed the SAP Gateway, the SAP NetWeaver Gateway or Project Gateway that we had. And for me, this was absolutely amazing. With the OData builder and all these cool things that we had there. And now, exactly like what you said, now I go to a CDS view and I say OData equals true, and I have the OData service. This is so cool.
And you don't even need to do that anymore. So it's even more simple.
Oh,
Just getting
You took that away
simpler
from me
by
too.
the day. But yeah, it's just really amazing. I go on the record to say that opening up OData in SAP, it's been best thing since sliced bread. And forget about AI. I think we're good. We're good with OData now. And the things that you can do, it's like Paul said, if you just try it, you will find million more uses for it. So yeah, I definitely, if anyone takes any message, just one message from this conversation, even if you are working with ACC system at work, you don't need to feel like you're stuck. You don't even need to go to BTP, like forget that part. You can just go in and just start doing something like right now, today, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
wait for anything. So yeah, and yeah, thank you
Holger,
so much, Holger, for sharing.
yeah, Holger, okay, so this is on me for not checking the tech ed session lists at all, hardly. Because
all good.
I'm kind of a keynote. If I can't go for somewhere, I'm kind of a keynote guy rather than a session guy. But hearing that, like, I do want to get your tech ed impressions, both internal to your sessions, but also like announcements, roadmaps, etc. Like, what are the things that sort of lit up inside your head when you're watching or viewing or hearing about the things that are coming down the pipe?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, for me, TechEd was not always about the content, but it was always also very, very much about the community coming together. And that is something that does not work virtual. So that for me was a little unfortunate. I mean, now let's see what happens with ASAC Tech Connect, with DSAC Tech Exchange. Let's see if this can replace this to some extent. But that was for me one of the biggest drawbacks, to be honest, that it's just a virtual event.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the keynote, obviously there were some changes. I guess Jürgen Müller was supposed to do the keynote, so I think there were some last minute changes there. I think overall it was a good keynote. I mean, it was a little markety, not so much a technical keynote.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw any code actually, I think, but that's where we have DJ and the team with the development keynotes. But I think, I mean, from a story, BTP is obviously there. Michael Ameling talking about integration suite, the growing numbers there. When we look at the data topic, there are a lot of new innovations. SAP Build, also obviously a lot of AI. Let's see. So I think there were a lot of good announcements. Maybe what is a little unfortunate is it were announcements. So I think there was not so much where they were saying, look, here it is, here's the link, test it out.
Yeah.
But I hope this will also come.
I think that is, I hadn't thought about it that way, but I like that because I follow a lot of like the frontier technology and the AI and stuff like that, and all of those companies, whenever they announce something, they always say, and we will be rolling it out, or we expect to roll it out in like spring or something. Like it's always like down the pike, and like I hadn't thought about this, but this is a great reflection. Is that like, because I went and watched the Michael Ameling and the guy do the various things in the keynote, and like they have the little pop-up bubble things that like 3/4 of them say announcement, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but can I pop the hood? Can I look at the thing rather than just the announcement? That's it. I hadn't thought about that, but that stuck in my craw. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
but
my impression. Yeah, sorry, Holger. My impression was similar. Like, wake me up when it's actually available. Why
Yeah.
are you even having an event to just announce stuff? So show us stuff. That's Sorry, Holger.
No, I just want to, maybe I'm a little unfair also there as well, because I mainly watched the keynote. I didn't watch a lot of the individual sessions.
Sure.
So maybe in these individual sessions they did show something.
That's a fair counterpoint because I'm like I said, I'm a keynote guy too. So yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, let me ask you this question. Let me come back a little bit and let me ask you one more thing before our time kind of runs out here. In the Microsoft bubble, if you're hearing that you're going to be, if you're a Microsoft in the Microsoft bubble and you're hearing that you're going to be plugging into SAP stuff, what about those folks? Like, what would help those folks get cross the bridge of those bubbles the fastest, learning wise, experience wise, whatever?
I think it's the complexity of connecting to an SAP system. I honestly think if you don't know SAP, it's very, very hard to connect. So I always thought it was much easier to convince or explain an SAP partner what to do on the Microsoft side than to talk to a Microsoft partner to explain what SAP is. I mean, from a technology point of view, I can easily explain how to connect to an OData service, especially if the OData service is already there, then they're good to go. But then when it comes, well, look, this OData service is not yet even activated. So what do I need to do? How do I activate the service?
Yeah.
And then maybe I get an OData service, but it only returns half of the information that I need. So where do I get the other half of the information?
Yeah.
What are these navigational attributes? What are these tokens that in a lot of cases, I just call the OData service, maybe I do a basic authentication, then I'm good to go. With SAP, there are, and I mean, I'm not blaming SAP. There are good reasons why there are things. But I think you need to have a better understanding of what happens in the SAP system. So that's why there are Microsoft guys that connect to an SAP system, but I think it always turns up that you need to have a basic understanding of SAP before you can really build successful things. So I know this is a stupid or a marketing term or a Gartner, these fusion teams. I think this is really, that works extremely well. If you have the Microsoft guy or girl talking to the SAP person, if they connect, if they work together, then that's where something really powerful can happen.
Yeah. I think at least from my side, that is a good bow on top of the conversation, is to sit down and talk to people. Like, I wish we could do a tech ed, but hopefully we get to do it at Tech Connect or whatever. Hey, are you gonna be at the US Tech Connect by any chance? No. Okay.
No. I'll be at DSAC, but not at ASAC.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the Boring Enterprise Nerds, Holger, thank you so much, both for the show and tell, the magic, but also for the conversation and the sharing as well. Really
It's
appreciate that.
been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, everyone, thanks for
you.
watching. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.